again?
I can't lose one more friend.
Miguel, this isn't what we talked about!
You knew? I have no idea what you're doing!
Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
All stations, stop Spider-Man!
Me?
What is the most disturbing thing you have ever discovered? 8 months ago I won $2 million on a lotto ticket. I gave my parents $200,000 each and kept the rest for myself. I started to browse the internet for houses that matched my liking. I found one and moved in. Everything was perfect. Some time passed again. My parents just left after visiting once again. It was about 6 p.m. I decided to head out for some dinner. I came home and started to get ready for bed. I laid in bed and fell asleep. I was awoken by what sounded like a scream outside my window. My eyes shot open. I watched the curtains move in the breeze as I listened to it echo in the night silence. It scared the crap out of me. My heart was in my throat. I started to calm down when I remembered that foxes made similar noises. Effing fox, I murmured to myself. I started to drift off when it happened again. This time it sounded closer than the other. I sighed and got up out of bed. I was still a little on edge, but I pushed through the fear. I peered out the window towards the tall trees. I peered around, but to no avail. I looked at the hardwood floor for a second, then looked back up. Behind a tree around 100 feet away I saw something move. I gasped and then closed the window. I ran back to bed and hid under the covers. The reason for my panic was a story my grandpa told me when I was 14. He told me about a creature called a skinwalker. He described it as a large humanoid creature with dark skin and no hair. It can disguise itself as an animal or human and make sounds like a scream or mimic the voice of a loved one or friend to drag you in. The only way it could be stopped was to shoot it with a silver bullet. This idea was running through my mind. I stayed under the covers for about 10 minutes. There have been no screams since then. Over time I started to calm down. I had to use the bathroom, so I got up and walked towards the door. I stopped moving for a second to itch my ankle when I heard a whimper outside. I froze. It sounded like a dog or some other small animal. In my mind, I thought, stop being a wuss. It's probably just a dog or something. Skinwalkers aren't even real, you idiot. I snapped out of my haze and continued to the bathroom. I finished in there and walked out. Before returning to bed I peered towards my front door. Something was blocking the window. There is a porch light, so I could tell something was there. I thought that maybe it was a desk I ordered that might have shown up sometime after I went to sleep. I watched the mass for about 5 seconds when my heart dropped. I watched as the mass slowly shrank below the window of the door. I started to hear the whimper again, this time muffled by the front door. I laid my back behind the wall by the stairs and pulled out my phone. I started to dial the number of one of my neighbors, Paul. I called Paul because he is a professional hunter. He has a lot of weapons, so he was the best choice. He didn't pick up the first 2 calls but picked up the third. In a groggy, annoyed voice he said, "What? I need help. There is something at my door whimpering," I said, my voice trembling. "Like what?" This time he sounded more interested. I'm not sure. I think of some sort of animal," I said. "Hold on." I heard the phone scuffle around a bit, then he spoke again. "Looks like a small dog," he said. His bedroom window had a perfect view of my front door. "Please don't think I'm crazy, but I swear I saw it shrink," I said, feeling like an idiot. Dead silence. "Hello?" I asked. "Did you say shrink?" Yeah, why?" He paused for a moment and started up again. "Here's what I want you to do. Stay where you are. Try not to make any noise. If anything changes you need to tell me, okay? I'm gonna grab my rifle," he said confidently. "Okay," I whispered. About 2 minutes passed. I could hear Paul moving and doing stuff in his house. Finally, he came back on. "All right, I'm gonna open the window," he said. I peered around the corner and looked out the transom window. I could see his window slide open. I heard him rack his rifle. "All right," he said. I waited about 3 seconds until Paul spoke up again. I don't see anything there." As he said this I realized that the whimpering had ceased. "I can't hear the whimper anymore," I said. "That's not good. Listen, I need you to make a decision. Either make a run for my house or I make a run to you." He exclaimed. "Well, you have the firearm, so could you come here?" I said. He sighed. "All right. I'm coming." He hung up the phone. About 8 seconds later I heard his front door opening from my bedroom window. It took around a minute, but finally, I heard a knock on the door. Relief washed over me. I started to walk down the stairs. About halfway down Paul shouted out to me, "It's safe to come to the door. Hurry." I sped up and started to unlock the door when I remembered what my grandpa said. It can make sounds like a scream or mimic the voice of a loved one or friend to drag you in. I stopped in my tracks and started to back up from the door. I headed back up the stairs and decided to peer out my bedroom window. There in the street was Paul, not moving. I turned white as a ghost. The person at the door wasn't Paul. It was the creature. I didn't know what to do next, but I came up with a plan. I was going to distract the creature by throwing something behind my house. When I knew it was there I was going to run out the front door into the street and grab Paul's firearm. When the creature comes back around I will end it. If Paul knew what it was he must have had silver bullets loaded. I grabbed a vase from the hallway and headed toward the bathroom again. I slowly started to open the window. I made sure the coast was clear and dropped the vase onto the ground. I heard the creature scurry away from the front deck. I quickly ran towards the front door. I unlocked it and swung it open. I made a break for Paul, who was now lifeless. I shouted at the creature asking it to show itself. The road fell silent. After about 10 seconds I saw it galloping out from the side of my house on all fours. I raised the firearm and unloaded, closing my eyes. My eyes peeled open. The creature was in a fetal position on the ground, back onto me. This thing must have been 10 feet tall. It was huge. I racked the firearm and started to approach. Slowly but surely I crept my way up towards it. I was about 6 feet away. I raised the firearm again. The thing jumped up and ran away into the woods, whimpering the whole way. Finally, this thing was over. I pulled out my phone and called 911. I explained what happened, not expecting them to believe me. At this point, a few neighbors down the road were woken up by the shots and came to see what happened. The police arrived in about 15 minutes. Soon after that, black vans with tinted windows rolled up. Government. I knew right away why they were there. I was questioned all night. I wasn't allowed to stay in my house for about a month. I didn't want to stay either. The government offered to buy the house after I expressed my urge to leave.
A bunch of cartoonists and I contributed to this new book, writing and drawing comics, and here's how I drew the cover. I had always known about this series, Best American Comics, and I loved their self-referential covers, and I wanted to create a sort of meta cover of my own for this piece. The cover features a bunch of different kinds of comic professionals, each contributing different skills to one page of comics, and hopefully if you pick this comic up, you'll learn all those skills, and hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
What?
Messy sketchbook pages.
from mini to full size. After testing out this idea in my mini sketchbook, I brought it to the big leagues and did a full-size version. Although it turned out pretty similar to the mini version, I realized pretty quickly that if I wanted the effect I had imagined, I needed to space out the motifs differently. Stay tuned for attempt number 3.
Welcome to Stickman Anatomy 1.5.
Cheat code edition.
Last time, we went over how to draw the arm from the side. First, we went over the arm's basic proportions, and then we covered the muscle groups that make it up. It was a little difficult, but necessary for the next step. I'm gonna teach y'all a cheat code to draw the arm from the front and in 3/4 really easily. This is the lightning bolt method. You'll see why. Draw in your basic stickman arm shape and divide it in half at the elbow. You're gonna draw 3 curves, one for the deltoid, one for the inner arm, and then one for the outer arm, the B-arm muscles and the extensors. If you look at it closely, you can see that it resembles a lightning bolt. Now you can fill in the details with the muscles that we learned last week. Let's attack this 3/4 view, and you're gonna start it out the same way. Deltoid, inner arm, outer arm. Now, all you gotta do is fill in all the details with the muscles that we learned last week. Let's go ahead and tackle an example that's connected to the torso, which a tutorial is coming for. Draw out the lightning bolts on the side, make sure the proportions are right. Now block in some rough anatomical shapes. Now you have something that looks okay, but of course you're gonna clean it up later. Because I love y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and label out all the muscles that we covered last week so you can compare. A big advantage of this method is its versatility. Let's say you want to draw an arm that's big and beefy. All you need to do is exaggerate those curves. There are 3 reasons why you had to understand the last lesson before you get this one. Proportion, or the size you put things, placement, where you put the muscles, and then troubleshooting. I learned this method off of YouTube years ago, and my drawings usually came out looking like this. Can you see the issue? The answer is proportion. Without my knowledge of anatomy and proportion, I'd know that something was wrong, but I'd never be able to figure out what. And that's on troubleshooting. If I helped you out, go ahead, leave me a like, leave a comment, and follow your boy for more tips. You feel me? These videos take a while, so it'd be much appreciated.
Wow, I haven't stubbed my toe in 5 months, I said with joys. I was then shot 57 times.
How I keep motivation to actually finish my sketchbooks. So firstly, I have this poster of a mildly threatening fish on my wall. That's fun. But a major thing actually is the size of the sketchbook, which is a huge factor because something like this is a lot more entertaining than something like this. As you can see, I also prefer using brighter colors just because I find something like this a lot more boring than something like this. Another way I love keeping sketchbook motivation is challenging myself with quantifiable goals. For example, challenging myself to draw 100 houses or 500 fish. So this way, my goals in practice will seem a lot more worth something because there is an endpoint in sight. This is an example of how I improve my art with this technique. Another thing is just to experiment with materials. Personally, I love doing mixed media and it keeps a lot of motivation. Lastly, just draw what you like. No one's really forcing you to draw anything that you don't like. Personally, I love drawing sea creatures and that's like what a lot of my pages are filled with. Okay, bye.